Water for production supports Uganda's economy directly through the development and utilization of water resources for productive use in crop irrigation, tourism, livestock, agriculture, rural industry, and other commercial uses. Water for productive use is estimated to account for 60 to 70% of the total national water requirement. However, out of that, only 2% of the water in Uganda is used for production, with only 1% for irrigation, covering 5,000 hectares out of 1.3 million hectares under formal irrigation. Water for production originates from surface water, which is pumped by gravity, or pumping using solar panels, and we have other groundwater sources called shallow and deep wells. The shallow wells are boreholes. The deep wells can be boreholes. The shallow wells are the springs, protected springs. As well as we harvest water through rainwater harvesting and to a lesser extent municipal water supply. That is part of our current situation. There are few dams that we've constructed are providing these services to the animals. We have a couple draft, and this is also one of the dams that is already in use, but of course is not sufficient enough to support the water for production in Uganda. Why is this a problem? Well, Uganda is an endowed economy with abundant water resources. However, the increasing population pressure, coupled with the increase in climate variability, which we expect to have extreme and frequent periods of intense rainfall, onset, cessation of rainy season, as well as frequent episodes of drought, the total renewable water resources of the country are expected to drop by 2030 to 948 cubic meters per year capita. This is based on a UNDESA report. Almost corresponding to the water scarcity threshold. At the same time, the total water demand for water for production is projected to rise. Of course, given the population pressure, people will be demanding for more water resources for production. So the interventions to address this problem, to address the water scarcity challenge and to be able to adapt to climate change, we need to increase water storage through rehabilitation of dams and valley tanks. We have over 102 valley tanks, and these were constructed so many years back, 50 years plus, and are no longer fulfilling their purpose. This majority are getting silted, and we need to rehabilitate them to serve the purpose. Why do we think that by rehabilitating the water for production dams and valley tanks, we shall increase water storage? The lack of water for production and domestic use is one of those big constraints to sustainable livelihood in many parts of Uganda. There is rapid runoff, especially during the rainy seasons, and a frequent proportion going to waste or even becoming destructive in terms of floods. So to mitigate this, harvesting water where and when it falls presents the opportunity to address water scarcity and soil degradation. Water can be used for many purposes, but reliable water storage facilities are required.
Thank you. That was probably less than 5 minutes, I think. And there's plenty of detail there. What I didn't get out of that was why focus on water from the previous part? So
This one?
that for me was slightly missing. So there's a leap somewhere from, okay, water for irrigation is 2%, but why is that an issue? What exactly is the water storage going to do for increased production or better production, etc.? So there are some links, I think, weren't apparent to me, which then bring you to why dam rehabilitation necessary, or bring you to a question of would dam rehabilitation be the right solution, but maybe there are alternative solutions. So I think there's some steps in there which I felt were missing.
I have a question still on, the short presentation. Are they looking at systems, subsystems, are there examples of what has been done in other areas in this presentation?
Well, I'm hoping that the subsystem stuff is lying behind this. And maybe with further discussion we'll find out. But I don't think it needed necessarily to be in the statement. So it might be worth putting in the statement, but it wasn't crucial, I think. But I'm hoping that it lies behind the reasoning to get to.
Mildred, why do you think this project would qualify for GCF funding?
Well,
This idea.
well, given the fact that we've tried so many interventions to support the water scarcity, to mitigate water scarcity in our country, I think what if we focus more on water for production, constructing valley dams, valley tanks, we have a lot of water potential, but we don't know where to put that water.
Yeah.
And I think if we would focus more on the construction of these tanks, we would be able to harvest a lot of water, make sense of it, to do so many things. We have serious.
So it's more of, you're talking about, it's more of adaptation
It's more of that.
and improving livelihoods. Okay. Nothing on, anyway, that maybe we are not yet there. But for GCF, at least some elements on mitigation would be really something. But maybe for now we're just defining the problem, as Rob puts it. But what I'm not so sure is whether this is really a problem. Okay, it could be. Water shortage is a problem in many places, not only in Uganda, even in Kenya. Many places, both in the villages and town areas, are suffering water shortage. But the kind of intervention you are proposing is really very interesting. Why do you think it's, amongst other alternative interventions, it's the best for, the option that can lead to solving the problem?
Like I said, we have a lot of water potential.
Okay.
Rainwater, we always lose it in the process of the rains. And I would think if we had those huge tanks that would harvest that amount of water, we would be able to, compare to other interventions, constructing of the valley tanks would be the best option, because it harvests larger volumes of water compared to other interventions.
Okay. What problems exist? Suppose you fixed the tanks, let's say.
Yeah.
Rehabilitate the tanks. The picture you showed at the beginning had water hyacinth.
Yeah.
Would that still be, would it solve that hyacinth problem?
Rehabilitation. If we had a fund to be doing that rehabilitation from time to time, I think it would be able to solve this problem. Right now we don't have the resources to do this, because these are almost like rivers, big lakes, man-made big lakes. We need a boat, we need the manpower,
So this is a dam, not a flood.
This is a dam constructed by the Ministry of Water and Environment,
So when was this constructed?
like over 50 years back.
So they were constructed during the colonial period.
Yeah.
They've been neglected.
And then what, I mean, if these have been lying here for 50 years,
Yeah.
are we talking about, I mean, have they sort of evolved their own kind of ecosystem that will be disrupted through rehabilitation? Are there things that rehabilitating the dam will actually do damage to, that actually be valuable? Well, I'm using that as a possibility, but my point is that this kind of quite large scale intervention in terms of the dam may be destructive of other things, and it's important to consider those. I think, again, in system terms.
And I'm thinking, when they were putting this up, they went through the EIA process and all that. That is what I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
that was already put into consideration.
But those are not foolproof.
No, we haven't.
They often miss things, or they get corrupted in the process. So that's not in itself maybe strong evidence that there wouldn't be problems. I mean, it depends on particular specific processes, of course. But I'm just trying to get you to tell us about the systems, I suppose, to go behind the story. You know, this dam is not just a thing that holds water. There are, you know,
There are
other
other
things that are
activities.
related.
They use it for fishing. Yeah, there is fishing there. People harvest water for domestic use and for production. I don't know if those are systems.
Well, it's part of
Part of
the
it.
system, let's say, all these elements make a system. But if you intervene in the system, then you will inevitably disrupt it for good and for bad. And understanding what those disruptions are is important. But it just feels to me like this is a kind of, because these exist, the intervention is just to repair them, rather than to think of the system and how the system would be better. That's the impression I get.
Yeah, that is what we just want. Rehabilitation.
But how could the system be better? That's my question.
Well, I can't think of it now. We will think about it.
And this is why I was asking about alternatives. So thinking about alternatives, what other, not necessarily tried in Uganda, but tried elsewhere, and
Apart
maybe
from-
translatable to,
Apart from rehabilitative, yeah?
yeah. I mean, that might be part of it as well. I'm not dismissing rehabilitating dams, but my point is to try and think sort of more widely in the system terms. What else is involved in the way the water is used and so on that maybe could be changed, which would mean an improved overall system?
So we pick the water from here, from this large dam, then the distribution points. Distribution points, I mean, for irrigation. How do people come? Because when, for example, you're picking water for domestic use, the locals come with jerry cans. You come with jerry cans and saucepans. At times we lose lives with this in the process. So I would think that if they would make collection points, water collection points, and this would just be a supply point, it would be better. So I think we have improved the system.
Okay, and then, so this is actually very interesting because this is now seeing it a bigger picture. That there are, let's say, one of the drawbacks of a large body of water is that it's safe for drowning. So while you might, you have a potential solution there without having to take it.
Points,
What does that mean? It means pipe work to a tap or something?
pipe work to tap, and again pipe work to the garden, for irrigation. Then probably a sanitation facility around the system, So to avoid contamination. When communities come to pick water, we have a sanitation facility instead of littering around the dam. That is one of the other interventions I think of.
And then how does the water get from the dam to the farm?
There's sort of, I don't know, but I think they are now trying to connect lines, pipe water system. Those days we didn't have system. They would just collect there and community will come and use it. But now they're trying to connect systems, pipe water to the farm. Yes. And also they are improvising ways of pumping the water from this system using solar panels, solar pumps to a tank which is somewhere, and the water is supplied from the tank.
Okay, so currently, sorry, I'm hogging all the questions. Currently, a farmer comes with what? What kind of
A jerry can.
Jerry. A farmer comes with a jerry can. And
Then
water
water
to cattle.
for cattle, yeah. But again, when it rains, for example, in this photo, on this one, is a water truck. When it rains, it also acts as a water catcher.
Yeah.
Holds water and cattle can find it. But right now, as you're seeing on the photo on the left, on the right, they have put up solar systems. These are the new designs. So they pump water from the tank to the troughs, there's another tank around the plastic tank. It also picks water from this tank, the valley tank, and that's how the water is consumed.
Okay.
From
And
a
is
tank
that,
outside this main tank.
okay, so that trough,
The trough is now connected to
yeah,
to
the dam.
a solar to the dam, but water from the dam is pumped using this solar panel you're seeing here.
Where is that solar panel?
Sorry?
Where is it now? On the right hand?
In the right-hand photograph, yeah, that little construction.
This one here, this is a panel,
It's a solar pump.
a solar pump.
And is that, how is that controlled? Is that, does the farmer decide, I need water and...
No, this is a communal.
Mm.
They are not owned by an individual. They set up in a certain region, and the community around uses that.
But the pump, how is the pump switched on? Or is it always on, always
There's
pumping?
someone who manages, employed by the ministry, who manages.
How do they know when the farmers need water in their crop?
No, there are intervals. We have set intervals that maybe between this time and this time, the other outside tank, the plastic tank, water will be done. So they keep pumping to the tank, and the water from that tank does the connection, the supply. Yes.
But then in the trough,
It is also connected to the trough.
yeah,
Yes.
is there a tap at the trough? So the farmer comes on, turns on the tap, fills the
No.
trough. So how is the filling? What I'm
I think
asking
it
is
will
how do you
be-
avoid the water just pouring into the trough and getting lost?
That is where
There must be some control,
yeah, there must be some control.
and I'm asking what that control is.
That's why I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because it's too engineered.
Okay. So I'm trying to get a sense of what this system is. That's why I'm asking these
There's some
annoying questions.
solutions that will prevent that loss. Maybe some.
Solutions that will prevent the water loss.
So now, well, okay, we don't know exactly how the trough is filled. What about the water for fields?
Water for fields.
Crops.
We have pipe water systems. Of late, they have improvised, they are innovating systems that are linked directly to the tank, and they are connected to a very huge garden, which is communally owned, and they do drip irrigation. Water just feeds through the line. I think that's how we manage to save on water loss. It doesn't just splash and go and goes to waste. it goes dripping at a given interval. And that's how it is trapped. They connect directly to the valley tank. Now, of course, when a valley tank looks like in the previous picture, it is hard. That's why we are thinking of rehabilitating this.
You mentioned that there are 102 dams, right?
Yeah, that means
Are all compromised by the hyacinth situation?
others are silted, like the surface runoff, soil erosion. So the soil goes and fills, it becomes like a bad trap. When you fall in there, you cannot come out. And the water levels are also compromised. So there are so many ways these dams are being compromised apart from the water quality.
So they all require several different levels of
Different
rehabilitation.
ways of rehabilitation. Yes.
So what made them to be?
I
What I'm trying to struggle with in your preposition is
Yeah.
why is it a unique solution? And because what will make it, or what will make the dams not be rather silted again? Yeah, and do you know the reasons as to why
Yeah.
there was the 50 dams, the 102 dams which existed were basically silted
Yeah.
to a point where they became useless? And you want to repeat kind of the same,
No.
because the line will provide the same thing, yeah?
You want to create
To the
sustainable-
south and, yeah. So what would make sure that, the situation doesn't drop back to where it was?
I'm thinking what made these dams silt over the 50 years, they have never been rehabilitated. Rehabilitation cost is too high, so they were a bit neglected. And I think when this concept go through maybe and we get the funding, we shall be able to do the necessary rehabilitation from time to time. There is a time frame for doing that, but it seems they were neglected completely.
So once let's say you get the funding to do the rehabilitation, and the project is 5 years, or 10 years. What do you do after 10 years? The project comes to an end and there's no more funding, and the siltation continues.
I'm thinking by that time, we should have come up with better solutions, given that period between.
That's what you need to come up with now.
Right now.
Yeah, because
I can't think of anything.
yeah, okay,
But this is why you need to look
Yeah.
Yes.
why
I'm
this is-
appreciating that.
yeah.
What else has been tried elsewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are the things behind this problem? What are the drivers behind this kind of siltation, that dams are getting silted to an extent that they become so?
One of the drivers.
It might not be because of
Neglect.
money, because you tend to say it's money, isn't it?
They were neglected.
It might be because of other things which you need to
Mm.
understand to
Yeah.
define what Prof says as the problem. Yeah.
So I think if I were you,
Yeah.
I would first of all try to actually understand what is the entire system. I'm thinking, let's say, from the dam through how it is used. So that includes farmers, but also those who are taking water for domestic use and whatever other uses there are,
Yeah.
fishing and so on. Think of all of those uses. And think, okay, then how is the water used? Who's using it? And what happens afterwards to that water? So that you have a sense of at least part of the cycle.
Yeah.
Actually, Kelvin, I think, has done this kind of circular research before, so I think he probably maybe has some ideas about how you characterize your system. to understand more fully what is going on, what are the resource flows, in this case the water flows, but also how they interact with livelihoods and so on. To get a fuller understanding of what is the whole system. And then you can start to think about, well, what's causing specific problems in that system. And that helps you then to see what might be possible in terms of new interventions. That could potentially, because the way you describe this as a sort of community ownership, there is potential, let's say, to experiment with new ideas in one of these as a way of testing out the ideas and learning, with then the possibility of quite a lot of replication or at least translation, because maybe there are different issues and different around different dams. But I think you need to get a much fuller understanding of the system.
Well, I have one question, not to have to him, when he was talking about the circular motion and
Means actually working with the way the natural system functions, but with some manipulation so that it actually suits also the needs of the humans who are using this.
That's true. Green normally is associated with efficient use, and in some cases associated with climate proofing. So that's anything to do with efficient use, innovative use or something, so that you derive more from less. We describe green.
So what would you call, I suppose what I think I'm sort of grappling to find is something like nature-based solutions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like payment for ecosystem service. We are having that happening in this country, where those who benefit from dams that supply the water, part of the revenue goes back to restore the catchments for the long-term lifespan of the dam.
But what about other kinds of solutions which are not necessarily about a market, but sort of build in resilience naturally?
Yes.
Do you have any examples? So you could, for example, like where I work, in the University of Sussex, there is the building which I am, it's called the Jubilee Building, and it's built on the side of a slope, the hill, which is quite steep.
Yeah.
And what they did was to cut a huge hole in the hill to make a flat surface and put the building on. But then, of course, there's a big slope like this, where the hill, the rest of the hill is. And what they've done is they've covered it with that sort of metal mesh fencing to hold the hill in place so it doesn't fall onto the building.
Yeah.
Now that is not a nature-based solution, yeah?
Yeah, that is maybe climate proofing or something.
Well, I think it's a cheap techno fix.
But it helps.
Well, yes, but are there other ways where you could have, let's say you could use trees, and the tree roots hold the soil in place, and you've got a much more pleasant situation where you've got trees instead of a wire mesh. And it's natural. It's natural, and it provides, because they're trees, that provides habitat, and actually enhances
The beauty of
ecosystem
the
and
scenery,
beauty,
yeah.
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 But does the job that you need to do for the human needs. And so that would be a nature-based solution. And so I'm trying to think, are there examples of that, doing that nature-based solution?
Yeah.
For this kind of issue about water catchment and supply and use and so on.
They're doing a lot of that here in Nairobi. In Nairobi, water comes from the Karni Dam, which is Marangao.
Is it thicker?
The Kaini. It's in Thika.
Thicker.
So what happens is that there's a group, community group there, that organizes some kind of marathon, in which they raise funds. And those funds are basically to go and protect catchments so that there's less sanitation and eventually protect the quality of the dam. And what they are doing is to identify nice trees, not eucalyptus of course, but trees that are compatible with ecosystem protection. And then plant them and ensure that they grow. So those trees prevent siltation, they eventually protect the lifespan of the dam, which will not need to be dredged over time. So that's happening.
And that is a market-based approach.
Yes. So that those who benefit are kind of paying for that ecosystem service.
They are being motivated to enhance the environment for the benefits of those who are the users of the services.
Perfect.
But
Call it
I-
payment for ecosystem services or something.
Paying for
it
ecosystem
is a market
services is fine, but I'm, let's say, just a bit suspicious
Yeah.
that actually it turns into an opportunity for corruption.
Yes, you're right, you're right.
People receive are very little. The only thing I think there is they are building some sort of feeling that they are providing something for others. The upstream service providers, because the money they receive normally is not lots of money, and those people they build the sense that by for us our actions here or our activities here, they can influence livelihoods of others downstream, and now that action that they are serving others, they feel worthy in a way. To incorporate people, local people there, and they build the sense of feeling that they are contributing. They will keep on contributing because they might think if we destroy the ecosystem, we destroy watersheds. Downstream people, they will suffer, and their suffering will be associated with our action. And responsibility.
So in short, for example, in the 102 dams, we have
Looking at what you are proposing, how do you see it being part of? Because this to me, defining your idea is critical, but defining it in the relevant context is much more important for the start. So how do you see all these? I mean, the activities to be done, those are fantastic things. But how do you see it fitting within the GCF framework? Can you think a little bit more, in a way that tries to link whatever solution you're proposing to the GCF framework? Because I think for us that is I know we are going to have more discussions as time goes, but it's good to get it from the beginning that all the solution and everything we're trying to do here is in the context of the GCF. There could be other outcomes in terms of learning competency, to write proposals or other things. But for this, the first priority is to link it as much as possible to the GCF context. So moving forward, you might not want to do that now. You should try, look at what is it that, for instance, the GCF, what are the problems that the GCF initiative wants to solve? And how is this contributing to some of those problems that there are two things in GCF, it's mitigation and adaptation. This initiative addresses adaptation very well, but it doesn't mention anything to do with mitigation. And the aim here for us is to really ensure that you have an understanding of what the GCF would require. So how are you going to use that? So it is important to try. I think some of the ideas like what Kisa was mentioning around the catchment, system perspective. That those are, kind of very interesting that you can think about in terms of, when you look at the catchment. We have the upstream and we have issues of deforestation and all that. How can you link perhaps upstream rehabilitation activities that will then protect these dams, and that the upstream activities become kind of a source of carbon sink? Issues of, fuel, firewood and things that drive deforestation.
And is
That
it
kind
like-
of innovative thinking at this time, it's important. Yeah.
Does a GCF proposal project need to cover both mitigation and adaptation?
Priority, actually they need to